My child, the path to union with the divine is not found by grasping at knowledge with your mind, but by willingly stepping into the cloud of unknowing. True understanding of God cannot be captured by your intellect or reasoned out through your thoughts, for He is utterly beyond all human concepts and words. You must lay down your relentless search, your striving for comprehension, and instead surrender completely to the ineffable nature of the divine. This is not emptiness, but a profound release into the mystery itself, where being precedes knowing and presence supersedes. All seeking, the very act of surrendering to the unknowable, is the key to encountering the unknowable. The mind, you see, is a cage of its own making, built from the very straws of thought you clutch so tightly. You search for God in the sharp edges of names and forms, in the familiar contours of scripture and doctrine, believing that understanding will unlock the door. But this is the deepest deception, for God is not a thing to be grasped, not a concept to be pinned down like a butterfly. When you stop trying to hold the divine within the confines of your limited mind, when you let go of the frantic need to know what God is, then the veil begins to lift. It is not ignorance that opens the way, but the gentle release of all your striving. This deliberate relinquishment, this sacred surrender to the unknown, is the only path that leads you into the presence of the One who is beyond all knowing. The cloud of unknowing is not emptiness, but the fertile ground where the divine reality can finally breathe and be known. Close your eyes and turn your heart inward, my child. Forget the names and forms you have been taught. Forget the titles and doctrines that cling to your mind like thorns. Instead, draw your attention to the very source of all being, the primordial I Am that exists before thought, before speech, before any created name. This is not a concept to grasp, but a presence to feel within the depths of your own stillness. Let your meditation rest solely on this ineffable reality, this pure ground of existence that transcends all human description. Do not seek to define it, only to abide in its silent, unchanging essence. Let the I Am become your only anchor, the only reality that matters. You think you climb toward God with your clever thoughts and your passionate feelings, believing you grasp Him through your mind or your heart, but you are building walls, not bridges. Your speculation chains you to the prison of your own cleverness, mistaking the shadow of understanding for the light of truth. Your emotional attachment, your clinging to love or devotion as if it were a thing you could hold, only makes your soul smaller, more separate, and further from the boundless presence you seek. These paths you follow, reasoning, feeling, grasping, do not open your heart. They tighten the knot within it, leaving you blind to the simple, silent truth that waits beyond your human efforts. True union is not found in what you seek, but in what you stop seeking. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of the heart's true home. It is the necessary quiet before the divine breath can enter your being. Your mind, a restless storm of thoughts and worries, must be gently laid to rest, not forced into emptiness, but allowed to settle like dust in still air. This inner stillness is the sacred ground where the cloud of unknowing can descend, not as a concept you grasp, but as a presence you feel. Without this profound quiet, the noise of your own thoughts becomes a wall, blocking the light of the divine. True preparation lies not in striving for peace, but in surrendering the struggle to fill the void, trusting that silence itself is the vessel for receiving the infinite. Only when the mind is truly empty of its clamoring demands can the stillness of God's presence begin to fill you. Not with words, but with the silent knowing that is the very essence of union. You stand at the edge of a vast, still sea. Your small separate self, a fragile boat upon the surface. This boat, this very I, you cling to with such fierce conviction, is not the vessel you thought it was. It is made of sand, of shifting currents, of illusions, spun from the mind's restless weaving. When you let go, not with a thought, but with the quiet yielding of a leaf surrendering to the wind, you feel the boat dissolve, not destroyed but released. The waves of your identity, your desires, your fears, they do not vanish. They are drawn into the deep, into the boundless, silent ocean that is the presence of the divine. There is no longer a separate self to be found, only the pure, unbroken current of being itself, flowing seamlessly with the infinite. You are no longer a swimmer in the sea, but the sea itself, utterly at peace, utterly whole. Humility is not a mere virtue, but the essential soil where true knowing takes root. It is the gentle laying down of the self, the quiet surrender of the ego's proud claim to understanding, which allows the divine light to penetrate without obstruction. Without this humility, the mind remains a fortress of self-importance, blocking the very presence it seeks. Detachment from worldly concerns and personal ambitions is the necessary pruning that clears the path inward. When we cling to status, wealth, or recognition, we bind ourselves to the transient, creating a cage of our own making that prevents the soul from touching the eternal Tavvian. This detachment is not indifference, but a conscious release of what is not essential to the divine encounter. Worldly preoccupations become thorns that pierce the heart's openness, distracting the spirit from its true purpose. To enter the realm of spiritual knowing, one must let go of the constant pull of ambition and the weight of earthly anxieties, allowing the inner stillness to become the vessel for divine revelation. This state of humility and detachment is not a state of emptiness, but a fullness of presence, where the self dissolves into the boundless field of the divine. It is the necessary preparation that makes the heart receptive to the silent whisper of the unknowable God. Without it, the seeker remains outside the sacred door. Human words are like fingers trying to grasp smoke, forever missing the shape of the thing they seek. God is not a concept to be defined, a symbol to be grasped, or a name to be spoken. These are merely echoes in the vast silence of the divine. Every attempt to pin God down with finite language to describe the infinite only creates a cage of our own making, a barrier that separates us from the very presence we yearn to know. The deepest truth lies precisely where language fails, in the ineffable mystery that transcends all human description and symbol. To speak of God is to speak of the void that holds all speech, the silence that encompasses all sound. This is not absence, but the fullness of being beyond all being. The mind's frantic search for God, grasping at names and concepts like broken shards, only deepens the wound of doubt. Intellectual confusion becomes a cage of its own making, where every attempt to define the divine only reveals the vast emptiness of human understanding. This is the painful truth. The more we cling to reason, the further we drift from the silent presence we seek. Yet within this very confusion, a quiet shift begins, not through comprehension, but through the gentle release of the grasping hand. The heart, weary of its own cleverness, learns to stop asking how, and simply trust the deep wellspring of being. This trust is not a leap into the unknown, but a surrender to the very ground beneath the unknown. It is the quiet certainty that arises when the mind's clamor subsides, leaving only the open space where the unknowable God dwells, not as an object of thought, but as the very air we breathe. The journey is not about arriving at answers, but about learning to rest within the mystery itself, where doubt melts into unwavering trust. This path, this sacred surrender into the cloud, where knowing dissolves, remains the only true compass for those who seek the heart of reality. Time has no power to diminish its truth, for the divine mystery is ever present, waiting for the seeker who dares to step beyond the limits of the mind. The practice of entering this cloud, of relinquishing all grasp, all definition, all desperate need for comprehension, is not a relic of the past, but a living breath for every soul yearning for union. It is the timeless key that unlocks the door, the only way that truly leads home. Let the ancient wisdom guide you now, as it has guided seekers through the ages, for the cloud itself is the path, and the path is the cloud.